Three, two, one. We should be live. Mr. Mitch, it's you and I. We're the ones doing this today.
As I'm gonna call it, it's the American version of the Beerumverate.
That's a good way to put it.
Hello, everybody from all over. We are the Beerumverate. Yes, we're doing an American version. We are just some cool guys that love video games and like drinking beer. So we're not here to promote drinking of any kind. So please drink responsibly if you are going to. And we're not sponsored by anybody, but I'm feeling we'd be open to it if someone came to us and said, "Hey, try our beer." We probably
Indeed.
would do so for them. He needs to pay the bills. So, Burkoff needs to pay the bills. So give him a sponsorship. We are missing one Mr. McWombles, unfortunately. He is out sick. Hence, we are doing the Americanized version of the Beerumverate today. So we do wish McWomble to get a faster recovery than what he's getting at the moment. So hopefully he gets better sooner.
Yeah, I hope he's feeling better relatively soon so we can finally do another one of these with everybody on.
Right. Yeah, and I'm Mitch, and then I have Matt Burkoff with me here, and I'm gonna let Burkoff take it away because you've been, as McWomble said to me last time I was on, you've been quite the busy person, as I can notice.
Yeah, so I don't have any beers this morning. I am drinking a Rockstar Lime Freezer. The reason for that is because I was up till 3:34 last night playing Yakuza 0 and had a few beers while playing that. We finally did it. I finally bought that game. It was $10 on the Steam summer sale. So I figured yesterday would be a good time to finally add that to my library. And interestingly enough, so my PC runs Linux. I don't run Windows or anything like that. So gaming can be difficult at times, but Valve has integrated the what they call Proton, which is it's like a wrapper for Windows games. So a lot of games now will just run. A lot of Windows games will just run in Linux through the Steam client. So you just install it and launch it, and Steam takes care of the rest. And to my surprise, Yakuza 0 is one of those games that just launches and works.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah, and so I was really surprised at the like how well it ran and everything. So I was like, "Fuck it, let's go ahead and stream it." So I streamed it last night.
Which, if you, I recommend you watch it, especially at the end, because he gets his ass kicked real hardcore at the end, and he ends up like going, "It's 3:00 in the morning. I need to stop." And so, as we all know, if you ever watch the Beerumverate, Evan Piotrowski is a huge Yakuza advocate and has gotten me to play Yakuza as well and gotten me obsessed with it too. And you did mention at the end you did like it, but I'm gonna give you some pieces of advice because you got your ass kicked, and I was like, okay. I was yelling at the screen, going, "Gotta do these things." So, one, you gotta get some health. Go to the store, go to the drugstore. You gotta find it. There's like 2 drugstores in the whole town. Just go to the drugstore and stock up. They only let you stock up on like, I think it's like 10 of a certain kind. So I just stock up on all of the different kinds, the highest, the lowest, and the smallest, and then use that variety. 2, you gotta use your specials more, man. When you get that special, you just gotta use it right away, because like you can't just let it linger like that.
Well, I was trying to use it, but it's weird. I kept forgetting like what button to press, and I was like trying to use B or circle to like grab the guy, and then use the triangle or Y button to do like the special move, and not switching styles either. So I noticed that you kind of have to switch your styles on the fly, which I wasn't doing regularly.
Especially in Zero and Kumami, you definitely need to switch styles based off who you're facing, compared to Yakuza Kumami 2. I didn't have to change up styles at all. I just stuck to one style. Then my third piece of advice, God damn it, just pick up a chair. Because it like mows them down faster than what you could just punching one by one. Like, Dude, like even if they block, you break their blocking, and like I just and then some of the most funniest parts were when you were like flinging a chair and slammed it ridiculously in their face, or the one where I'm like the giant table is lit up so you can pick up the giant
Right.
table of the room and swing it, and here you are just like all of a sudden you kick a chair and it flings the table to the other side, and I'm like, no, you need the table.
I'll chalk that up to the fact that I had a few beers before getting to that point, and I wasn't really focused. I was like, oh, there's too many guys. So
But that is Yakuza heaven. That is the. But how I didn't get to watch the whole thing. I watched a big chunk. I kind of like skimmed through a bit, but I mean, what did you think of the rest of it overall? I mean, you said you had a good time with the combat. What did you think of the rest of it?
so this is probably some of the things that I want to talk to Evan about, just because he's like so into the series and has played all of the games. It's really jarring that like parts of the game are voice acted, and then you get to other parts where it's just text based, and then there's other cutscenes that where it's like audio, but it's their mouths aren't moving. It's so weird and jarring to have like the different styles of cutscenes. Like,
And I would say it doesn't happen. That doesn't happen as much as you go through the series.
Okay.
In regards to like the different variety, you're still going to run into some cutscenes where there's audio and some of them where it's just text. Like that's not going to change. But to have like scenes where it's just someone walking into a room and then cutting and then it's just text from there or something like that, that's not going to happen as much.
okay. I'm trying to think. The old guy, Bacchus or Brachus or whatever his name is. The weird dude with the he's got the patches on his jacket. Looks like a professor. He's a very strange character. It just came out of nowhere and was like, "Hey, I'm this old guy, and I'm going to teach you how to use your teach you how to use your upgrade abilities." I was like, "What the fuck?" And then like he shows up again later, and I was just like, "Who the fuck is this? Like, what is this guy? Like, he's a very random character." I guess that's the Japanese in the game. To just have this random ass old dude just show you.
I mean, they got a lot of colorful characters in general in that game. I mean, just that series in general. I'm watching you play it because I'd never played Zero. I played Kiyomi 1 and Kiyomi 2, but I just never went to Zero.
Okay.
Because I don't want to go back. I want to keep moving forward because I'm so obsessed with where the story is. And unfortunately, 2 leaves you on a cliffhanger, and I'm upset. And I want to play 3, but I can't find it anywhere.
Have they released 3 for PS4
in Japan?
Oh, so you
Not
have
in
to
the
get
US.
the Japanese version.
And I need to Evan to do a class with me just to get through that game.
Oh man, I have to imagine that they're definitely gonna release it eventually over here, right?
I really hope they do. Like,
see-
even though Evan said it's really rough, I don't care. I want to play it so I can get through the rest of the games, because after that it's all late PS3 or PS4.
Right.
I think 3 is the last PS2 game, or it's the first PS3 game. I can't remember,
Okay.
but I don't think it's released in America specifically. This is where it becomes creepy. I mean, not creepy, confusing, and I don't understand where like things fit in regards to like which one has been released and is translated to English so I can understand it. Fortunately, Evan is half, well, I would say he's half American, half Japanese, but he's not really. He's all American, but he can at least read the darn thing and understand what's going on, where someone like me can't do such a thing. I wish I could.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I regret in high school. I wish I did Japanese.
I used to carry around a Japanese to English dictionary or English to Japanese dictionary and like thumb through it and try to teach myself Japanese back in the day, but like I never stuck with it. I never took any classes or anything, so I know a little bit just based on being involved with video games and stuff. Like you pick up certain things, but there's no way that I would be able to handle a game solely in Japanese.
I don't know how because didn't like some old back then, like reviewers would bring in Japanese imports and try to get through a game just in Japanese without even knowing what Japanese is and try to learn the systems.
Oh, dude, yeah.
I think they did that with Persona, like the latest one.
Andrew Goldfarb of IGN.
That's who it is.
Yeah,
Yep.
he's like, I don't know any Japanese. I just get the games to play and figure them out.
I was like, I can't even imagine. That's got to be like extremely stressful and being like, no, I didn't mean to close my game. All of a sudden, you lost like an hour of your save file. I
Yeah,
just imagine that first hour of that game must be just the most brutal thing you ever like go through because you're just like, I don't know anything of like if I hit this button, what happens? It's like if you had like it's like if you had like a bomb is gonna explode and you have like the single wire, but you cannot read anything to understand of how to disarm it. Is like one could kill your game for you.
yeah. I can remember back in the day picking up. I'm trying to think. It was one of the Dragon Ball Z games for the Super Nintendo, and
Budokai or Tenkaichi, one of those.
I don't know. I'll have to find the name, but
Oh, that's Super Nintendo. Never mind. That's like GameCube era. Never mind. Hey, that's too old.
but I
That's
can
not my era.
I can remember like navigating the menus and like, oh, okay, so this is kind of this and this is kind of that. But like it's a fighting game, so you don't really have to understand anything. It's like, I know these characters. This menu gets me to the arcade, or this menu option gets me to the arcade. Uh, you know, play style for it. So I'll do this and I'll play this character, and then I can figure out the button combos. And you don't really have to know any Japanese, but I was never able to play like RPGs or anything. And Yakuza is pretty text heavy. I was surprised,
Oh yeah,
especially since
hardcore on its story. It's like, and it's got a lot of elements to it where it's just like not even attached to the story. Like heck, on was it Kiwami 2? I literally played a mini game basically where you were like a pit boss and you owned a bar and you had like these ladies that would entertain people by bringing them drinks and things like that.
okay,
And you had to match the ladies with the personality of the people. And as you grew the company, you get better clientele, which then you get better models that kind of like match ladies that match their personalities. And then you like rake in the tips and all that kind of stuff. And then you compete against local bars.
okay,
Like I literally did that for like 10 hours and I just knocked down
Jesus.
my headphones.
So, so you spent 10 hours on essentially what's a mini game.
It could have been like a mobile game and it was that much fun. Like I was just
Wow.
like, it was so addicting and so much fun to like play. I was like, I kept going back to it. I was like, I think I like went to it 3 times. I like took a break, went back to the story, and then when I got back to that same town, I just went back and I was like, okay, I want to like win it all. I want to be the top like bar place around. And it was just, I don't know, it was so much fun. I like, you'll find things like that within Yakuza, which is just like, you'll go, this mini game is so much fun. I'm going to play it like 30
Yeah.
times. I mean, obviously, like I didn't mean just to get in Yakuza so much, but this was a super point I had. I was trying to create a show where I was going to do like a radio show, do a radio show style. So like this with camera work and everything, except I would talk about topics more deeply and be like a couple topics, but still relate it to current times. And one of the topics I wrote about, I have a script for like one when I almost launched it and I changed my mind. It was too much editing. Oh God, it would have been a nightmare. But one of them was, I believe that Yakuza is what Shenmue tried to be. And
Oh,
unfortunately, like for Shenmue, Yakuza has all this success and Shenmue is in the background where Yakuza has like 8 games in its franchise and Shenmue wanted 12 games in its franchise. And it's just so amazing to see how these two games are so similar and how yet Yakuza was the one that prevailed and maybe showed that Shenmue was maybe too ahead of its time. That it just never got. I mean, the guy Suzuki, whatever his name is,
Yu Suzuki. Yeah.
Yu Suzuki must be like jealous beyond belief of being like, man, I like created a Yakuza game long time ago, but Yakuza is the one that's successful and not me.
Well, have you played Shenmue? Because I've never played those
Yes,
games.
I played 1 and 2, and so that's why I made the comparison because
Okay.
after playing Yakuza and Shenmue 1 and 2, I played them both around the same time as well, all within like a month chunk, and
Okay.
that's where I was like, even though it's Shenmue came out before and it's a little bit like, ahead of its time, I was like, that's just insane to think about that these games are so similar that like Hugh Suzuki's probably like kicking himself going, dang it, why am I not the one to like get all this success?
Yeah, I've been able to capitalize on this. I don't know. Maybe it's because he released on the Dreamcast and Yakuza released on the PS2. I mean,
Could be it too.
yeah, I don't know. I've never played
Well, they're
the.
both Sega properties too. So the other weirder part on top of that was like if since they're both Sega properties, it's like why at the boardroom did they not say, "Hey, this sounds a lot like Shenmue. Maybe we should work with Shenmue and make Shenmue better?"
Right.
But no, they just are like, "Let's just make this series that's so similar to Shenmue and never release Shenmue, but let's release 8 Yakuza games."
I don't know. The graphics are definitely better than what I've seen. Like just playing Zero last night on my computer on like low settings. I was like, wow, this actually looks pretty good for low settings. But then like watching the trailers that they've shown of Shenmue 3 so far, I'm like, this looks like crap. Like this doesn't look good.
Well, it probably doesn't have as much money behind it as Yakuza does, to be honest.
I really though. I mean, like this is kind of like Yakuza is like a middle market series. I don't feel like it's that big. I mean, it's popular enough that they're gonna bring the games over to the West, but I don't know. I'm not
I
sure.
think I think it boosted enough to like because like right before they released Zero, they had some serious success in the West when they pushed out a couple of their Yakuza games. So I have a feeling that Sony and Sega really pushed hard to give them a big budget to be able to really explode. Because heck, they were remaking 1 and 2 almost from scratch. I mean, 2 was made from almost from scratch because it used the new engine, but 1 Kiwami 1 is almost it's almost a remake from the ground up. They used the similar assets and just really upresed everything up, but
Right.
I mean, they just I don't I guess I see more production side on that end than I do of the Shenmue. I don't know what they raised $5 million on Shenmue.
I have no idea. I stopped following it. I was like, this is never gonna happen. Or it's never gonna be good. So.
Oh, I was like, it is gonna happen because it's out.
Anyway, we should probably move on from Yakuza. McWomble is gonna kill us, and he's probably laying in
Killing
bed.
over in
Yeah,
bed.
laying in bed in pain right now, like. "Ah." So the
He's
main
like making Mitch talk on this show was the worst idea I ever had.
right. Do you want to get into the beers that you're drinking today?
Yeah, I talked about them in past shows too, but I just have to finish off my pack, and just because of the work I do, I cannot drink as often as I'd like to,
Okay.
and not necessarily when I am not at work doesn't necessarily mean I'm basically on call a lot of the time. So
Right.
it means I have to just be available and not drunk. So I'm finishing off some of my Lineys. So this one is yes, it's a fruit beer with McWomble. Deal with it. See, this is why you got sick. You didn't have a fruit beer. You went away from the fruit beer and they punished you by making you sick. So it's a cherry blonde lager and it's part of their variety pack. This one's a lot better. Surprisingly enough, of all the fruit beers that they do offer of the Lineys, this one doesn't even taste like cherry, to be honest.
I
It
suppose
barely.
that's a good thing that it doesn't taste like cherries.
I mean, well, they do a really good job about having the fruit, but yet it still has that richness of the beer to make you feel like it's still a beer, hardcore beer, but it's just got like a new dimension to it by adding the fruit element to it. Where this one, it just doesn't feel like it has that fruit element at all. It just feels like it's just a. This one is probably the closest to a dark, richer beer that they have in their lineup compared to most of their beers are a lot lighter and
Right.
not as heavy.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so we'll get on to the main topic, games on repeat. So you had brought this up. I was thinking about just doing a segment on the games that we've been playing recently, and then maybe the games that we are looking forward to playing the latter half of this year. And then you said, well, what about the games that keep bringing you back? And I said, well, that's basically the games that I'm playing right now, so that makes sense. Do you have any games off the top of your head that you want to go over, or do you want me to jump right into what I have been playing this last week?
Well, I do have one,
Okay.
and then we'll definitely get to what you got. So one of mine, and it actually is surprising because it had a remake come out this year for it, and that is Resident Evil 2.
Right.
My growing up in games is basically the PS1 came out a little after I turned a couple of years old. So the PS1 was kind of my first exposure to games. I also had a Sega Genesis when I was a kid too, and we played Sonic on that thing. I also remember Batman on that thing too, but I don't have it anymore. But PS1 is one of the first memories I have of games. My first like experience playing games were Resident Evil and Tomb Raider, and always my dad always bought those games, so we had every single Tomb Raider. I still have the original copies from when I was a kid.
That's
And
cool.
so one game that does keep me going back, and it's just because I think it is almost near perfect of a game, and that is Resident Evil 2.
Okay.
And I think the remake, unfortunately, was so close of being a perfect remake, and it just missed one element. And I talk about it in a review I do, and if we want to talk about it, we can. But I think, like, man, that game just has it all. I mean, it's got and things that other games just don't have. It's got two different congruent storylines where you play two complete playthroughs, and it's like a complete story where you feel like where the first Resident Evil, you do have two storylines, but not necessarily they cross over correctly. It's like really strange. They somehow don't work. And so
Yeah.
um, it's always strange in that aspect. But the fact that they did so much work to get two congruent storylines to work together uh, is just amazing. Is the perfect system of survival horror in its heyday. It's got a good variety of challenging enemies, great ammo conservation that you have to be great at utilizing. You have to be great at understanding the environment that you're in and where you need to go. I
Right.
mean, and it's just exciting to honestly, I don't know why I keep going back to playing it, but it's just so much fun. And it's not the other part that it's not a super long experience either. So I think that also helps, and it makes it worth coming back to, where you're not going to spend like 3 weeks going back to playing this game again. You can
Right.
spend 2 days going back to play this game, or even one day, depends on what you do. But
How long is playthrough of the game? Is it like 12 hours or something?
I think it's less than that. I mean, well, if you know the game, once you play the game so many times, like I know where to go
Okay.
basically. And so I can get it done in like 6 hours,
Okay.
7 hours between the two, because like the second playthrough is always going to be like 3 to 4, maybe less than that, and the original would be maybe 8. Yeah, 6 to 8, I'd say, because
Okay.
I think the original probably is going to be 3 to 4 hours potentially.
All
I don't
right.
know, I haven't played actually in a while, so.
Well, you need to get on it then. If it's a game that's on repeat.
Well, I mean, I know. I mean, honestly, the remake satisfied me enough. I was like, I played that remake like 6 times. I like
Wow. All
S
right.
plus that thing. Like, I was so proud when I could power through that and get that done in under 2 hours.
That's
And I didn't think
crazy.
I could do that. I was just like, that is just, oh, that is just a great game. It's a great
Yeah,
game.
I remember when the original came out. When I had my friend on for one of my playthroughs earlier this week, he brought that up. He was like, "Yeah, I just played Resident Evil 2 again," and it was the remake. But yeah, I mean, I got fond memories of sitting around with my friends, and all of us like sitting at the TV, like taking turns passing the controller, and doing a co-op that way. Um, and I agree with you with the two playthroughs, like with Leon and Claire, and how there are two separate storylines is pretty interesting and really cool. It did feel like you got a lot of game, back in the day when it first came out, because it was like, oh, there's like two storylines for this, the same price as like a regular game. So yeah, I have not played the remake yet. It seems like I'm gonna have to get it eventually because everybody's talking saying great things about it. So
It's a must. Like honestly, that you know, if one thing that like gets me still with Resident Evil 2, and I think it's because of the fixed camera angles, which I think is to its not to its detriment in this aspect, is that it still scares the shit out of me constantly because that limited plane of view really like gets you sometimes where you all of a sudden like you're running down a corridor and you turn the corner, all of a sudden there's something right in front of you, or in that aspect, it just still terrifies me constantly on a consistent basis. Even like the Resident Evil 1 with the dogs jumping out the window, I know
yeah.
it's coming, but I get the timing wrong when I think it's going to happen. All of a sudden it does, and I'm like, oh crap. Like it's, but what Resident Evil 2, the remake, does really well, which is like, I didn't think I could be as terrified as I was playing the original because I thought it was, oh, it's probably the fixed camera angles.
Right.
And so to its detriment, I was going to be like, oh man, it's not going to have that same, I'm not gonna feel as scared playing this. Oh shit, man, that game is scary. Like it sets the setting so well, like with the sound, the lighting, the fact that they have you be in the dark with just a flashlight, I think is made this game so much better. Is almost like you could compare it to being that fixed camera angle. Because it just limits what you actually can see in moments.
Well, they did. It's basically the same mechanics from 4, right? So they took like the first person mechanics from 4, upgraded them a little bit, and then used it for this remake.
I would say it's a mix between 4 and 6.
Okay.
So it's got that freedom of movement in regards to moving while you have the gun out.
Okay, so you can't aim and move then.
Oh, absolutely.
Which you couldn't do in 4, right?
Correct. 4 and 5 you can. 6 they introduced that. It's not as actiony than 6 is, but I
don't think it should be.
Well, I mean, to be honest, for Resident Evil, most people are like, I don't like the way the story went. I was like, there's only so many times you can have them trapped in a place. Eventually, the virus is gonna break out. Eventually, there has to be something that has to do with the world being affected by this thing. Like, you can't put that in a bottle you can't put it in a bottle forever. But
right.
But I think what the other part they do amazingly well in the sequel, I mean, in the remake of 2, is that the limited space for your items, I think they do like the best I've ever seen in any. I think they even surpass it than they do in the original Resident Evil 2, just because of future games and how they are nowadays. You're gonna need more spaces, and if you played in just a normal setting, they upgrade your pouches enough to where you feel like you have enough, but you don't feel like you have too much space for everything. So it doesn't take away that aspect of understanding how much stuff you have with you and what you need to take with you, what should you leave behind, those kind of aspects.
I do like that element of the game, having the inventory be its own sort of
puzzle.
Yeah, exactly. It is its own puzzle. Just trying to figure out how am I going to carry all this crap and carry enough that's going to get me through. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm just so happy I have 2 amazing versions of one game that I could play. I actually honestly I'll probably go back and play both of them now. Like this is when we talk about rewind, holy cow, like I'm gonna rewind and play one from the original and I'm gonna play a remake, and they're basically almost gonna be some of the greatest games. I'm just so disheartened because I wish they made one small adjustment with unfortunately the story does not line up. And I heard from some sources and things like that they didn't plan on doing 2 separate storylines and doing an A and a B scenario, and that was put in last minute. So I can understand how they got there and why they don't have really a A and B.
Okay.
But I even break down in my spoiler talk, there's a way they could have done it where they could have had an A and B storyline without doing very much different. That maybe, would it have added maybe a couple months of extra development? Yes. But would have that gotten that game to maybe 99 to almost 100 for its Metacritic rating instead of a 92? Maybe. It might have gotten there.
Okay.
Because even though it would have been different than what the original story was, I think they would have gotten close enough to where people would have been really satisfied with it. So yeah, go play either of them. They are amazing games. I that series in general is just the is like the craziest evolution of like gaming and like games in general from like the first game back
Right.
then in 19 was it 98
The first
8 or
Resident Evil was 97, if I'm not mistaken.
okay 97 and coming all the way to like what we I mean I'm pushing Resident Evil remake to remake aside, but seeing the 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 growth and the development of how the game format has changed throughout that time is kind of shows how games have changed throughout the generation, which is you can't really say that very much for many franchises to see how their spans of games has changed as games have changed as a format.
Well, I guess, yeah, I mean, the game that I'm going to highlight will probably, as a series. So, can I get into mine?
Yeah, go ahead, go shoot yours, shoot it in. It's a
Uh,
perfect segue. Get into
so
it.
the one that yeah, the game that I've been playing recently is Final Fantasy VIII. They mentioned, or they announced the remastered version that they're gonna do, which is kind of cool. I'm glad we're finally getting that. And it's the game's 20 years old as of this year, so I figured it would be perfect because I actually really like eight. I know a lot of people don't. They think it's like the redheaded stepchild of the series. Um,
To let you know, 8 was the first Final Fantasy I ever played, which as
oh,
a kid trying to play that game, it's like near impossible. Like I got all the way to after you finally get your first mission
right.
and then you need to get on the train somehow, could never find out how to get on the stupid train.
I
Like
just
as
I just got past that part.
yeah,
in my
and that's just
playthrough.
like I couldn't even get on the train to like get out of the main town that is based off the game. And I think part of it was obviously I was like what I was probably like 7 years old when I was trying to play that game, seven
Okay.
or eight.
All right.
So obviously it's like text, skip. And obviously I don't understand how to summon anything, but no, keep going. I just
Um, yeah, I mean, in terms of like the reason I keep going back to specifically the PlayStation era Final Fantasies, mainly just because like good times, great memories, so that helps. But the the text was a little off-putting at first when I was a little bit younger and had played Final Fantasy 4 and 6, which was 2 and 3 in the US. Um, that was a little off-putting, but it got me to, because so much was going on and like I really wanted to understand what was happening. Like I forced myself to read all the dialogue. I got better at reading because of the games. I learned to enjoy reading a little bit.
thank you for saying that. I gotta stop you right there because I tried to convince my mom for the longest time when I was a child to say, when she would say because I didn't like reading as a child. I hated reading as a kid. And she would go, "You play video games all day long." I was like, "Mom, but I read. Like I'm reading text on there." And I think more families should be more open to understanding that, give them an older game and have them, if they find video games engaging, find ways to give them games that make them read because then they're going to read it more often.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like the fact that Octopath Traveler did the sort of a hybrid. Like some of the scenes are voice acted. Most of the game is not though. Um, like most of the dialogue sequences in the game, if you're just wandering around and finding side quests and things, so that stuff's not voice acted. It's just plain text on the screen. So there are some newer games that still do that to a certain extent. Obviously, like Yakuza yesterday, I was surprised how much text was actually in that game and how much I had to stop and read. Plus, it's all voiced in Japanese. I don't know Japanese, so I'm having to read along anyway. Um, but yeah, getting back to Final Fantasy VIII, and specifically like the PlayStation era Final Fantasies, it's just this great combination of an interesting battle system, you know, with the active time where you got that meter filling up and you have to make decisions quickly, but not too quickly. You can still strategize. Um, Certain enemies, you know, require certain strategies, or you know, you have to figure different things out in order to be able to take them down. So it's engaging in that way and does have a puzzly aspect. You have these engrossing stories that you can get wrapped up in with, you know, tens and of a bunch of different characters that you can follow. Um, and it's just this great mixture of different elements that just keeps me coming back. I keep going back to play them because I like the stories. I don't mind grinding so much because the battle systems are engaging. And yeah, I mean, they're fairly quick for JRPGs. Um, you can probably get through, like Final Fantasy VII, you can probably get through that in about 35 hours if you just head straight on the main quest and you don't breed chocobos or go after the weapons. Final Fantasy VIII, I think, is similar. You can get through that in about 40 hours if you just shoot straight through. Um, and the cool thing about 8 is the enemies scale with your level. So you can grind to get better. There's a curve. So like eventually you'll hit a point where you're just super over leveled and it doesn't matter that the enemies are meeting your level. But for most of the game, if you're just kind of going along with the story, the difficulty doesn't ever really spike that much. Um, so yeah, I've been playing Final Fantasy VIII, and I think I'm actually going to get through it. But Yakuza 0 might take up some of my time.
Yeah, I was starting to think. I was like, oh man, you're like starting so many games right now. Like, when are you gonna have time to finish them all?
8 should be pretty easy. I should be able to get through 8.
How many times have you beaten 8?
Only twice. So I played it back in the day, and then again, maybe 10 years later. So it's been 10 years since I've played it all the way through. But I've started it several different times since then. And it's always been a situation where, like, I start the game because I want that video game comfort food. So it doesn't really matter to me that I don't get too far. It's just I want to have that experience.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm over it, and then I move on to something else. This time, like I said, I think I'm going to get all the way through the game again because it has been 10 years. And I found my Brady guide, so I'm super excited to follow along with the Brady guide, like back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and just to imagine, like those games used to, like nowadays games are 100 hours or more, and like the nice thing about going back to older games is they're not as long, thank God. Except for obviously Final Fantasy games are probably the height of length in regards to like how long games are. But
Yeah,
like play something like Tomb Raider, like the original Tomb Raider, it's gonna be like 6 hours tops.
yeah. Well, even like Chrono Trigger. Chrono Trigger is oftentimes like the penultimate JRPG experience. I think you can get through that game in about 15 or 20 hours. You can do that in a weekend. I mean, you can get through the entire game. Granted, there's multiple endings to that game.
So you have to play it multiple times.
Yeah.
Or cheat and go on the internet and have them tell you every ending.
Or just keep multiple save files.
Oh, yeah, that would be
If you know where to save, like where the story branches,
true.
like what decisions you have to make, or like what you have to do to get to that different ending. I remember my friend doing that because he was obsessed with Chrono Trigger back in the day, and he had all of his different saves. I think you can have 3 or 4 on the original Super Nintendo. So he started 3 different games, and then at different points kept the saves in a row, and then he would get through a certain path and like, okay, I want to go back to this other save, go this other path.
Yeah, I'm just about to jump into Chrono Trigger pretty soon here, so I'm like, oh.
Have you never played it before?
No, Oh no, I'm sorry, not Chrono Trigger. I'm talking wrong game. Never mind, different game. I've never played Chrono Trigger, but I'm thinking of Secrets of Mana. That's what I was thinking of.
Oh, okay. You picked up the Mana collection, right, on
Yes, so
Switch?
I finished the first game, so the Final Fantasy Adventures or whatever it's called, which was a weird experience, but it was
I'm
I still enjoyed it.
I'm surprised you got through that already. That game, I remember playing it back in the day and it taking fucking forever.
I did cheat. I did look up some stuff because after I think it was well, I gave it the fair try. I gave it the fair go around where I like actually tried, and then I was like, I don't know what the hell I need to do right now. And then all of a sudden I find out it's like, oh, you need to make an 8 around these funky trees. And I was like, how the hell was I supposed to know it was those trees? And
Yeah.
how like, when they gave the clue of 8, I was like, okay, I need to find 8 trees, like 8 trees, and then I'll like do something. And did not find 8. I found 8 trees like 12 times. And I was like, okay, this is not working. Let me look up what to do.
How did you deal with the sword mechanic? Because don't you have to wait for like the meter to fill up every time you
No.
attack?
No, it gives you a super attack when you let the meter fill up. So it's just a normal attack, and then you can charge up for a super by not attacking for a set long length of time.
Okay, all right.
So it wasn't too bad. I never actually, that was my first experience playing any kind of like old school, like Zelda, Link's Awakening type combat at all. So I never experienced this kind of combat. So it was for the first probably 2 hours. I probably redid the beginning a few times because
Right.
I died like so many times in the beginning. And I was like, okay, I need to like really get to know this system so that I can be. And then it actually helped me in the end because I got to a certain point where I finally could like buy health, understand how to use all the mechanics in the game, all that kind of thing. And so it is a little jarring for a person that like grew up on PlayStation 3D games was the thing I grew up on. I didn't grow up on like these 2D open world fantasy adventure games. Never grew up on any of that kind of stuff. So I always grew up on 3D stuff. The only 2D like RPG experience I ever had was I got it was like the Game Boy Color came out probably I think it was like 2 years after 1 or 2 years after the Game Boy Color came out. My cousins gave me his original Game Boy, like the big
Yeah.
honkin' block. That thing could take out anybody. Like if you wanted a self-defense weapon, get the Game Boy. Like, geez, that thing's honking huge. And it took like 6 batteries.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think it was at least four for sure.
I think it was 4 or 6 AAA batteries it took. And
No, double
or
A.
double A,
Yeah,
thank you.
the bigger ones.
The bigger ones. And then I remember childhood moment here for so my first experience was Pokemon,
Okay.
uh, which was Silver and Gold was the first one I got.
Okay.
And then I ended up playing the old ones back in the day, and then I started to play the new ones as well. But I remember going to a Best Buy to go buy a new game for my new Game Boy, and obviously I learned the thing of your Game Boy can only play Game Boy games. It cannot play Game Boy Color games.
Right.
And all the games I wanted,
Or
and here
color.
I am like a 6 year, 7 year old kid. I think it was, yeah, it had to have been elementary school age. Here, all I wanted was Game Boy Color games, and I threw a fit going, I can't get anything stupid. All I get is Pokemon, and I'm like crying. And then I played Pokemon, and I finally was like, didn't complain because I love that game. I played that game forever.
Yeah, I still go back to that occasionally too. I'll play Red and Blue. Um,
Yeah, I played it through college. Like I loved playing emulators on my. I think the best part about the emulators was I could speed up so that I could, because obviously when you play them once or twice, you're like, I played them. Like I don't need to grind. Like it takes forever to
it
grind.
does. Yeah, it does take forever.
So to have like the ×2 mechanic on an emulator is so nice to be able
Oh,
to
it's
just
yeah,
battles.
especially now that we're adults and you're not like riding the bus to schools.
Exactly.
You
Yep.
know, like that was the time that I spent, you know, like getting on my Pokemon higher level was like
I
the
mean, I would go to trips. I used to live in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, and I had to go see my grandma in Oshkosh, which is like 3 hours away. That was the time I had my Game Boy.
right.
Like the time that I remembered, like a difference, like a stark difference, was back in that time too, you didn't have the screen light up, and so like the sun, and you can't play it in the dark either, so it like made it difficult. I always had to like turn to get the sunlight on
Yeah,
it.
yeah, you definitely,
and
yeah.
and then finally I had the Game Boy. I skipped the color. I got the Advance, the original one, and then I
Okay.
got the SP. Getting the SP with a light backlight was the greatest invention.
Oh yeah, and the clamshell design, like it.
Yeah, I
The
was
SP was
like,
pretty cool.
I love that thing, and I was like, I can play this in the dark now. That was
and
the cool thing.
and it had a charger too. You didn't have to
Yes,
worry
no
about. Yeah, you
batteries.
didn't have to worry about batteries.
I do
Um,
remember one game I could not get through on there was oh, what was it? It was the first Dragon Ball Z like RPG adventure game. I can't remember. It was
oh,
like Son
the
of Goku or something.
the Legend of Goku, I think is what it's
That's
called.
what it was. Could
Yeah,
not get through that game. Like I could not get through the first open world environment. I was like, I was so stuck.
I I remember when that came out. I never played it. I was like, okay, I love RPGs and I love Dragon Ball Z, but this is just not gonna work. I need a fighting or action game for my Dragon Ball Z.
Cool.
Um, yeah, I'm glad you brought up Pokemon because my wife and I are playing Let's Go Eevee, which is a remake of Yellow.
I
Um,
love Let's Go Eevee.
yeah, so I think probably later on today we'll probably jump on there. I think we're about halfway through. We've got approximately 16, 17 hours into the game, and we got 4 badges left. So um, roughly.
I gotta hear this. What do you said you really really love it. What do you love about it that's different from what Pokemon has done in the past? I mean,
So
obviously we have the new Pokemon coming out, but what would you take from it? And like, say you had the say in the new Pokemon game right now, what would you take from there and say this needs to go in there?
I all right. So I actually really like the catching mechanics. Like I thought that was going to be the stupidest, dumbest thing that you had to worry about. Like oh, I don't want to chuck my controller at the screen, and then you do it, and you're like, this is actually kind of fun. Like I fucking hate motion controls most of the time, but I'm not playing it by myself either. So that's the other thing. Like the co-op that you can just run through with somebody else. So, like, my wife was like, "Well, I want to play it." I'm like, "Okay." So, we created a game in her profile, and it's her save, and I'm just joining her for her game because she's never played through the original Yellow. So I'm
Oh,
like,
okay.
all right, we'll give you this. Like, you can have your experience going through the game for the first time, and I'll just co-op it with you. And you can combine balls. So you find there's no random battles, right? The Pokemon are out in the field, and you can see them. So you can go up to the ones that you want to catch or need to catch. And if you time it just right, and you both hit the Joy-Con at the same time, it'll like the Pokeballs like fuse, and it's like
Oh, that's cool. I've
yeah,
never played co-op, so this is new for me.
it's really fun. It's super easy. Like you're gonna have no troubles leveling or doing anything. And even if you're like slightly lower level than you need to be for an area, because there's two of you, it's like you get two Pokemon and they get one. So you're always gonna win like every time. It doesn't really matter. But it's still fun, like just going through having the go mechanics of catching the Pokemon is great. And then they've added some stuff to the story, so that's cool too. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I really enjoyed it. I don't really care that it's not challenging or anything like that. It's just great to kick back and relax and be able to have a game that I can spend time with my wife playing.
No, I agree with you 100%. Actually, after ending that, even though like obviously the original is harder and has more challenge to it, I end up loving Eevee more than I did the original. And maybe just because a fresh new take was on it, but I loved the only thing I wish that they offered in that game was a choice to battle the wild Pokemon or choose to catch the wild Pokemon and then still have that catchy mechanic in there. Because I mean, I loved that. It was nice that catching up like gave XP to all your Pokemon,
Right.
but it would have been nice to have that feature. One thing I found really cool out of it, and I was like, man, like this is where it sold me of going, I want future Pokemon to be like this, which it looks like they're doing it with Sword and Shield,
Okay.
where you're actually like seeing the Pokemon in the environment. But one thing that really got me was when so like you can have a Pokemon fly. And so, well, not necessarily fly. Sorry, I should restate this. So like if you have like a Charizard and you take him out of his Pokeball, you will go on Charizard's back and he
Right.
will be like gliding in the air. But the cool part about that is some of the Pokemon you'll find, especially when you go to like the Elite Four, like going up the path to getting to the Elite Four, you'll find some Pokemon are flying in the air, and the only way to spark a catching thing with them
Is to actually be on
is be
Charizard's
off
back and
off the air and being flying on the back of the Pokemon, which
that's
was it was so cool. I was like, whoa, like this brought a new dimension to like what you could do with Pokemon with just the simple mechanic that was there. And so I was just like, it felt more realistic in that aspect too, being like, yeah, of course this Pokemon's going to be in the air. Like, why is it going to be on the ground for
in the
walking
tall
around?
grass. Yeah.
I was like, that's stupid. Like, it's going to fly in the air and try to run away. And so obviously you want to be able to fly in the air. And it's just I think it was brilliant in that aspect. And I just hope and pray that looks like they're keeping like see the Pokemon, get the Pokemon. But at the same time, I think they also showed something of like some of them will be hidden in the grass, but you can see where it is and you can go get it if you wanted to, which is okay. I'm fine with that compromise. I'll take it. Compared to just walking in the grass and all of a sudden something goes battle time.
Yeah, yeah, it's always annoying when you're like, God damn it, I just need that one Pokemon, and I keep getting into random battles with this other one that I've got. I've already got 5 of them. I don't.
Right. I don't care how rare it is. Like just
Right.
then I'll wait for it to pop up on the map and then I'll run after it. Like
Right, exactly.
or I don't even want to battle any of these guys. So can I just walk around you, please?
Yeah, exactly.
So that was great. Which actually we just kind of mentioned one, which was Pokemon as a game that we kind of went back and played a little bit.
I keep going back to it. I like the original Red and Blue. I mean, those hold a special place in my heart, right? Since that was the first game, that was my first exposure to the series. I keep going back to those. I've played Gold and Silver. I've played Crystal, which technically is Gold and Silver, but there's a few tweaks.
What is the few tweaks? I don't think I played Crystal.
You can choose male or female. I want to say Crystal has all of the Pokemon from Gold and Silver, so you don't have to
It
trade.
usually does, yeah. Except for the starters.
I'm trying to think. I think there's
And there's a new legendary in there too.
right. There's a new legendary. There's trying to think what other stuff was in there. I want to say they fixed. They always fix bugs, right? They always fix weird errors and things. I think they fixed something with the time system. It's just sort of the best version of that game. I've got back into it and was like, okay, I'm gonna pick up. I think I picked up white or black. Kind of got into it, but I was like, I don't know. I don't want to grind for hours and hours and hours. I'm not riding the bus to school anymore.
Actually, that's hilarious you say that because I'm similar with you, except obviously I started with silver and gold first, but then I played red and all that before that, after that. But I did fall off the series after Ruby and Sapphire, and I came back when I can't remember what it was. I was a junior in high school when Black and White came out,
Okay.
and I was like, okay, and I didn't have a 3DS at the time.
No, regular DS.
Regular DS.
Yeah.
I didn't have the DS at the time, so I spent my money and went to go buy one, and I bought Pokemon Black and White one of the two. I can't remember which one.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that finally turned me off from the series in that aspect until just recently, when finally the series I think is kind of coming back to where it should be, um, was when I got this Pokemon and it looked like this cute, adorable frozen thing. And I forgot the name of what it's called. And I was like, oh, this is going to turn into a badass. So I spent all this time like working on evolving this thing. And when it evolved, I got a freaking ice cream cone.
Oh my god, that's a real Pokemon?
Yeah, it was like an icicle ice cream cone. And I was like, I'm done. I can't do this. I can't do this. Like, I gotta Google this. I gotta figure out which one it is. I think
So
it's like everyone's most hated Pokemon is the stupid ice cream cone.
I'll tell you, I think in Black and White, I got to the fourth or fifth gym that you have to get through.
Okay.
And I want to say it's like there's like a city with
I just saw the name and I don't remember this name. It's Vanilla-ish.
get the fuck out of here, vanilla-ish.
Like I'll send it to you in chat so you can Google it really quick because you really should look at this thing on camera. So
You could always do a screen share.
Oh, how do I do this? Okay.
So it's at the bottom. You can where it says share. Just do the arrow up.
Oh, share. Gotcha. Desktop one. Share. All right, we're getting to real technical stuff here.
Oh shit! Hold on.
Did it screw up OBS?
Yeah, it did. Hold on, let me exit full screen mode. So I can't. I can only see the top half of your screen.
Okay, I'll just send you the name and you can.
Vanilla-ish. All right, hold on, wait. For the viewers at home, I think I've got this.
Should I undo the screen sharing?
No, just scroll down just a tiny little bit. There we go.
That's what I got. That's why I was like, what the hell? I wonder if it can show me the thing that I got that I was like, oh yeah, this is going to turn into a badass. Where is it? Come on. Where would it be if I were trying to find... Oh, here we go. Here's the evolutions.
The evolution. Okay.
Do you see it now?
How did you ever think that was going to turn into a badass Pokemon?
Sometimes the cutest things turn into the most badass looking things ever. And I was like, it's an ice Pokemon. Usually ice Pokemon are the coolest. And I got this ice cream vanilla-ish thing. And I was like, I give the fuck up.
Yeah, I think I got to like the third or fourth gym, and I was like, all right, I'm just fucking done. Like I'm tired of grinding. Not knowing they really remixed and mixed up like the elements, right? So it used to be pretty easy. It was like a real basic rock paper scissors mechanic, right?
Yeah, they got real complicated later.
And yeah, like the whole meta to the game, like certain Pokemon can have certain types of moves that are way more powerful than other Pokemon, and it was just so much easier back in the day. And I was like, I just don't have the time. Like I'm too old for this shit now, you know.
Well, and another thing I don't like is that every Pokemon game they introduce a new mechanic that doesn't carry over to the next one. So like they had Mega Evolutions in one.
Right.
They had like the Aloha. Now they got giant sized Pokemon, and I'm just like, why? Like I mean, at least the Alohas and the Mega Evolutions, it looked like they were trying. But here is just like, let's just supersize them, and that's what's gonna really like make this really unique. And I'm like,
Alohan versions are actually really cool. I'm glad that they kept those for Let's Go.
Yeah, I did like that too.
So it's kind of interesting that you run into the traders from. Is it Alohan? Is that the region?
I have no idea. I didn't play it.
I don't know what it's called, but from the Aloha region, whatever. So like they show up in different Poke Centers across Let's Go, and then as long as you have the original version already
You can
caught,
trade
you
it
can
for the
trade it up.
Aloha
Yeah, trade
version.
it up for the Aloha version, which is kind of cool. And I do like the redesigns. Like right now, we've been using the Alohan Raichu, which is kind of cool because he also has psychic attacks in addition to thunder attacks, which is really cool.
Interesting. See, that's interesting. Supersizing them, not really that interesting.
I agree. Yeah,
And
switching up the moveset a little bit and giving him a different design. That's cool.
it like at the same time, it also limits the, you know, obviously they're not the best looking of games. It's on the Switch, so
Right.
it's like to supersize it. Can they really handle that texture and not make it look real crummy? So we'll have to see.
We'll see. I think I don't know. Based on what I've seen of Sword and Shield, it'll be a game on repeat. I'll go to it.
I will like I will say, like, even though they have this large thing and I think it's ridiculous, at least I am excited about this one. Did I wish they take a bigger jump and take a bigger chance? Like, I want my perfect Pokemon game. I want a Nino Kuni battle system with Pokemon. Like,
Okay.
obviously original Nino Kuni. So like you actually control the Pokemon's movement. And so maybe like the movement has to do with whether they avoid something because of their agility, and like those actual attributes like make more sense because you
Okay.
actually see it contextually.
I think that's where you and I differ. I just give me
But you're
straight.
a turn-based guy. You love
Yeah.
turn-based.
Just give me a straight turn-based system. I'm happy.
And I'm like the action guy. Like, I'm like the one that wants all action oriented. Like,
Right.
stick out your old ways, Burkoff. Expand your boundaries.
Uh, well, you know, I have been expanding my horizons. We'll see. But yeah, do we have any other games that we want to mention? Franchises or specific games that we keep going back to?
Oh, not at actually. I don't really have. The one crazy part is we don't. I don't have much time to go back to games. So like, it's usually like, or it's usually like I'll play a game like later in its franchise and I'll go, oh yeah, I remember that was really good. Like the first game was really good, and then I'll go back
Okay.
and play like the first game. So like I played like Assassin's Creed, and I was like, oh yeah, I should go play Prince of Persia. So I went
Right.
back and played the original again. Like, or oh geez, those Sony sales are so convincing. I buy games and don't even know I have them. So I never played Beyond and Good and Evil, and I figured out just yesterday
That you have it.
that I have it on my PlayStation 3 for all things. Like, I don't even know how I got it, but I have it on there.
Wow.
So maybe I'll try it.
Do you think this is why remasters and remakes are so popular?
I
People
think
don't
so.
people
I
don't want
think
to go back, but they have a new chance. Like, oh, it's kind of a new game. I'll buy it this time and play it. I don't know.
I think that's half of it, but I think the other half is, GameStop was a huge proponent of, hey, give us your old console and we'll give you the new console at a cheaper price. And so I took advantage of that a lot when I was a kid.
Right.
And so I only have my PS3 and my PS4 from what I had. I bought a PS2 at a game store because I like didn't have one anymore. And when I got a PS2 when I was a kid, I gave away my PS1. So I think it's partially also because they might not have those old consoles again. So therefore, those things give them a reason to go back because now they have a way to access that game without having to buy a whole new system. Is it gonna work with my TV that I have? Like, I'm fortunate enough, like I have a 4K TV, but like I figured out a way for it to use like the AV cords of like red, yellow, and white. Like, I was
Right.
like, how do I make this work on there's only one port for it. So I have to switch out if I'm going to play on my GameCube, if I'm going to play on my PlayStation 1, or if I'm going to. So it's, I think it's getting trickier and trickier that I don't know if people actually have the old consoles to play them on anymore. So, like, I had my old PS2 games forever without having a PS2. Like that's how distorted it was. So I think it's more compelling that they offer these remasters for people to, go back and play them and have them on the current system that they own because, that's the one they actually have.
Yeah. So, have you been paying attention to the chat at all?
Our chat?
Yeah.
No, not the YouTube chat. No.
Yes, the YouTube chat. So
What
apparently Keith is in the chat. He is watching us.
happened?
He just sent me a direct message on Twitter, and I was like, "Why is my phone buzzing?" And I checked it, and he's like, "Do you guys even pay attention to the chat?" No, we weren't paying attention to the chat, Keith. We apologize for that.
Oh, where's the Hoff? ARPG Fest. You guys talk about Pokemon the whole damn time. And not the whole damn time. It was
It's been a good 20 minutes, though.
oh really? I didn't even notice. I mean, technically, it was more about old game systems than it was about Pokemon.
Right.
I guess that kind of foreway to that one. I don't know. Did you have a different one that's not an RPG, as Mick Wumble says?
I'm trying to think. I mean, that's the stuff that I go back to. That, like I said, that's my video game comfort food, man. That's
For the record, Mick Wumble, I picked Resident Evil. That's far from an RPG.
that's true. Yeah.
I
Right.
picked Tomb Raider as well. That's far from an RPG.
Um,
I should just look and see. Do I have a game over there that I still went back and played? No. So weird.
he said, "Who wants to talk about Yakuza?" You missed that too. You missed us talking about
Yeah,
Yakuza
Jesus,
for
come
like
on,
20 minutes.
come on. Like, you gotta get these. At least these comments got to be in order. It should be who wants to talk about Yakuza as the first thing, then JRPG Fest second. God, he must really be that sick that he just can't. He's skipped. He's like doing scene selections and he doesn't even know.
Uh, well, we have been streaming for about an hour. You want to go ahead and wrap it up?
Sure. Well, I mean, you usually sign us off, so you can sign us off.
Well, I do normally sign us off. Do you have anything to plug on freeze frame rate that you want to get out there?
Oh, sure. I said it on Twitter about a week ago, and I never did it because unfortunately, at work. Obviously, we work.
Yeah.
Like, got to pay the bills somehow. So I was gonna be doing an unboxing for when I won my Sifted Loot Crate box, which hilarious because I won 2 years ago a Loot Crate gaming box from Sifted. And then when he did the next one for the winner, and he was like going down the list, doing the number, going, okay, it's spot 15.
Right.
I was one away, and I was like about to type in the comments and go, damn it, I was one away. And then he goes, well, that person won within the 12 months. So the next winner is Freeze Frame Rate. And I was like, what?
Nice.
So
Okay.
2 game boxes is insane. So I'll do an unboxing for Shane to be nice to him.
So you don't even know what's in it.
I have no idea. I haven't opened it. It's literally on a table right there. It's been sitting there for a week, and I forgot it at work for like 3 days because I get my stuff sent to work.
Right.
And I was like, damn, I really should open this box. So literally, when we're done here, that is the next thing I am working on, is opening this box, and it'll be out tomorrow. I promise it'll be out tomorrow. This thing doesn't take much editing, so.
Nice. All right. Any other videos or anything you want to plug?
No,
Okay.
I'm gonna be enjoying watching you beat up some guys in a boardroom in Yakuza and get through that Final Fantasy VIII.
Yeah. So Final Fantasy VIII, I think, is going to be my game to play during the week because
Okay.
you can do about an hour, 2 hours at a time, and there's the save points are pretty liberal. So
Plus, Yakuza makes a more interesting drunk fest.
yeah, Yakuza is much better if I've been drinking, I think. Keith says he loves everybody, even Evan. So that'll probably be like the weekend game, and eventually, so I got a comment on one of my recent videos that I did from a guy that I guess has been subscribed to me for a really long time. So about a year and a half, 2 years ago, I did a video about running DOSBox on Chrome OS, and This guy commented on one of my recent videos. He's like, "When did you ever get that working? Like, what's going on?" So, hopefully, sometime this week, I will have time to do an updated video of running DOSBox on Chrome OS, and hopefully get Elder Scrolls 2 Daggerfall working on my Pixelbook.
Okay, nice.
So I just have to figure out how I'm gonna actually record that. I'll probably have to screen share from the Pixelbook to my desktop, so that I can have everything all together and be able to narrate over the video and stuff. But yeah, like out of nowhere, I was like, I didn't realize anybody actually gave a shit about that. So it was pretty interesting to have
The
somebody
things
comment.
you learn when you get a comment all of a sudden where
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I did that? Like, really? Oh, you liked that? I thought everyone hated it. That they got like the least amount of views. Everyone hated it.
Well, it actually has like quite a few views. It's got like,
Oh, okay.
yeah, hundreds of views or something. I was like, oh, okay, I guess people do care about this stuff. So I'll probably be working on that this week.
Nice.
All right, and on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we're signing out.